In the previous part, a florist was left at the altar by her fiancé, only for the bride's older sister, a cold and calculating lawyer, to step in and propose a practical marriage instead. What began as a contract of convenience slowly shifted into routine, quiet gestures, and unexpected warmth. But hidden truths emerged. The sister was the secret investor who saved the florist's business, and she had been in love with her for years. One shocking confession and a desperate kiss shattered the arrangement's boundaries, leaving everything uncertain. The link is in the description for part 1. This wasn't part of our agreement. No, I agree. My voice shaky. It wasn't, but I don't move away either. Evelyn's hands are still on my face, her thumbs stroking gently across my cheekbones, and I'm having trouble remembering why this is supposed to be a bad idea. What happens now? I ask. Evelyn's expression becomes conflicted, desire wearing with her natural inclination toward careful planning and risk management. I don't know, she admits. I never planned for this contingency. The honesty in her voice, the admission that Evelyn Sterling doesn't have a strategy for every possible scenario, makes something warm unfurl in my chest. This powerful, controlled woman is just as confused and overwhelmed as I am. Maybe we don't need a plan, I suggest. Maybe we can just see what happens. Evelyn searches my face for a long moment, looking for something I'm not sure I can give her. Whatever she sees there seems to make up her mind, because suddenly her mouth is on mine again. More urgent this time. We stumble toward her bedroom, stopping every few steps to kiss again, to touch, to confirm that this is really happening. Evelyn's hands are surprisingly gentle as she helps me out of my clothes, her touch reverent as if she can't quite believe I'm real. When we finally fall into her bed, the last rational part of my brain notes that Evelyn's bedroom is just as carefully neutral as the rest of her apartment. Gray walls, white bedding, minimal decoration. But then Evelyn's mouth finds the sensitive spot where my neck meets my shoulder, and rational thought becomes impossible. Evelyn makes love like she approaches everything else in her life with intense focus and a determination to excel. She learns my body with the same methodical thoroughness she brings to legal briefs, cataloging every response, every sensation that makes me gasp or arch beneath her touch. Afterward, we lie tangled together in Evelyn's expensive sheets, my head on her chest, and her fingers running through my hair. The silence between us is comfortable, but charged with awareness of how dramatically we've just altered our arrangement. This changes things, Evelyn says quietly. Yes, I agree it does. I leave for Seattle in the morning. She continues, a week-long deposition for the Morrison case. I've been dreading it, but now I think the time apart might be good for both of us. Give us space to figure out what we want this to be. The mention of her leaving sends an unexpected pang through my chest. Over the past 3 months, I've grown accustomed to Evelyn's presence, to our evening conversations and morning coffee routine. The thought of the condo being empty for a week feels wrong somehow. Are you having second thoughts? I ask, propping myself up to look at her face. Evelyn's expression is unreadable in the dim light filtering through her blackout curtains. About which part? The confession or what just happened between us? Both. Either. Evelyn is quiet for so long that I start to worry I've pushed too hard, asked for more honesty than she's prepared to give. When she finally speaks, her voice is carefully controlled. I don't regret telling you how I feel, she says. I've been carrying those feelings for 3 years, and keeping them secret was becoming impossible. As for this, she gestures vaguely at our intertwined bodies. I should probably regret it. It complicates our arrangement in ways that could be problematic for both of us. But do you regret it? Evelyn turns to meet my gaze directly, and I see something vulnerable and uncertain in her expression. No, she admits, I don't regret it, but I'm terrified of what it means. Evelyn Sterling, terrified. The woman who negotiates $1 million deals and faces down opposing counsel in high-stakes litigation. is frightened by the possibility of a real relationship with me. The irony isn't lost on me. What scares you most? I ask gently. That this is just gratitude. Evelyn says immediately that you're confusing appreciation for what I've done for your business with romantic feelings that when the novelty wears off, you'll realize you don't actually want to be married to someone like me, someone like her, someone brilliant and successful and surprisingly tender when she lets her guard down, someone who's been quietly supporting my dreams and defending my worth for years without expecting anything in return. Evelyn, I begin, but she shakes her head. I know how this looks, she continues. The practical arrangement, the financial support, the marriage proposal when you were vulnerable. It would be easy to mistake gratitude for something deeper, and I never want you to feel obligated to return feelings you don't actually have. The insecurity in her voice breaks my heart. Evelyn genuinely believes that her feelings might be unrequited, that I might be with her out of some misplaced sense of obligation rather than genuine attraction. What if it's not gratitude? I ask. What if I'm starting to fall for mysterious benefactor turned convenient wife? Evelyn's breath catches and I feel her body tense beneath mine. Are you? The question hangs between us, loaded with 3 years of Evelyn's hidden feelings and 3 months of our growing intimacy. I think about evening conversations that I look forward to all day, about Evelyn's dry humor and unexpected thoughtfulness, about the way she makes me feel protected and valued in ways Arya never did. I think I might be. I admit. Evelyn doesn't respond with words. Instead, she rolls us over and kisses me again, slow and deep and full of something that might be hope. When we break apart, her eyes are bright with unshed tears. I need to pack for Seattle, she says eventually. But I don't want to leave you. It's only a week, I remind her. And maybe the time apart will help us figure out what we really want. Evelyn nods, but I can see the uncertainty in her expression. She's afraid that distance will give me time to reconsider, to decide that our business arrangement should stay exactly that. The next morning, Evelyn is gone before I wake up, leaving only a brief note that she'll call when she arrives in Seattle. The condo feels emptier without her presence, more sterile and cold than it has in months. I spend the day at Bloom and vow, throwing myself into work and trying not to think about Evelyn's confession or the way she looked at me when I admitted I might be falling for her. But every time I handle the flowers that her anonymous investment made possible, I'm reminded of her quiet generosity and 3 years of hidden feelings. Diego Alvarez notices my distraction immediately. You're arranging those roses like they personally offended you, he observes. Want to talk about what's wrong? I want to tell him everything about Evelyn's confession, about the night we spent together, about the terrifying possibility that our fake marriage might be becoming something real. But the words stick in my throat, too complicated and fragile to share, even with my closest friend. Evelyn's out of town for work, I say instead. The condo feels weird without her. Diego Alvarez gives me a knowing look. You're falling for her, aren't you? The question catches me off guard, though it probably shouldn't. Diego Alvarez has always been perceptive about emotions, especially mine. It's complicated. I hedge. The best things usually are, Diego Alvarez replies. But Maya Reyes, you deserve someone who sees how amazing you are. If Evelyn Sterling makes you happy, don't overthink it. If only it were that simple. But as I work through the day arranging flowers for other people's love stories, I can't shake the feeling that Evelyn and I are standing at a crossroads. The week apart will either bring us closer together or make us both realize that some boundaries shouldn't be crossed. Either way, when Evelyn returns from Seattle, everything between us will be different. Evelyn returns from Seattle on a Friday evening, but something has changed. The woman who walks through the door is the same ice queen I married 4 months ago, not the vulnerable person who confessed her feelings and made love to me before she left. She greets me with polite formality, asks about my week in the tone one might use with a business associate, and immediately retreats to her home office to catch up on emails. The shift is so dramatic that I wonder if I imagined our night together. But I can still feel the ghost of her touch on my skin. Still remember the way she looked at me when I admitted I might be falling for her. Whatever happened in Seattle, it convinced Evelyn to rebuild the walls between us higher and stronger than before. How was the deposition? I ask over dinner, trying to bridge the sudden distance. Productive, Evelyn replies without looking up from her tablet. The Morrison case should settle within the month. She's treating me like a casual acquaintance, someone she's obligated to make small talk with, but doesn't actually want to engage. The easy intimacy we developed over the past months has vanished, replaced by the cold professionalism of our original arrangement. Evelyn, did I do something wrong? I finally ask when the silence becomes unbearable. She finally looks at me, her pale blue eyes carefully neutral. Of course not. I've simply been reflecting on our arrangement and think it's best if we maintain the boundaries we originally established. Boundaries. She's putting us back in our respective boxes, pretending that our confessions and physical intimacy never happened. The rejection stings more than I expected, especially since I spent the week apart realizing how much I missed her presence. I see, I say quietly. And what about what happened before you left? A temporary lapse in judgment, Evelyn replies with the same tone she might use to dismiss a filing error. It's better for both of us if we keep things professional. The clinical dismissal of our night together feels like a slap. Evelyn is shutting down so completely that I can barely recognize the woman who held me and whispered about 3 years of hidden feelings. Whatever vulnerability she showed me has been locked away behind layers of corporate armor. I don't push the subject further that night, but the tension between us grows over the following days. Evelyn works later, comes home after I've gone to bed, and leaves before I wake up. She's actively avoiding me in our own home, treating our shared space like a hotel, where we happen to be staying in adjacent rooms. A week after her return, I'm arranging flowers for a Saturday wedding. When my phone rings, Arya's name appears on the screen, and my stomach immediately clenches with dread. I haven't spoken to my ex-fiancée since our wedding disaster, and I can't imagine why she'd be calling now. Hello, Arya? I answer cautiously. My Arya's? Hi. Arya's voice sounds strained, almost nervous. I know this is unexpected, but I really need to talk to you. Could we meet for coffee? There's something important I need to tell you about, Evelyn. Every instinct tells me to decline, to hang up, and pretend this conversation never happened. But Arya's tone suggests she has information that could explain Evelyn's sudden retreat, and my curiosity outweighs my better judgment. Fine, I agree, but this better be important. We meet at a neutral coffee shop downtown, far from both Bloom and Vow and Evelyn's law firm. Arya looks different than she did at our wedding, more tired and less polished. Her usual confidence seems strained, and she fidgets with her coffee cup instead of meeting my eyes. I made a mistake. Arya begins without preamble. Leaving you at the altar was the biggest mistake of my life, and I've regretted it every day since. I stare at her in disbelief. You want to get back together after humiliating me in front of 200 people. I know how it sounds, Arya says quickly, but I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize I panicked. The idea of marriage scared me, but losing you scares me more. I want to make this right. My Arrayas. I want us to try again. I'm married to your sister, I remind her. Or did you forget that detail? Arya's expression hardens slightly. That's not a real marriage, and we both know it. Evelyn manipulated the situation to get what she's always wanted, and you fell for it because you were hurt and vulnerable. What are you talking about? Evelyn has been obsessed with you for years, Arya continues, leaning forward intently. She used to ask about you constantly when we were dating, always finding excuses to be around when you came to family events. I thought it was just sisterly interest, but looking back, all the signs were there. My blood runs cold as Arya's words echo Evelyn's own confession about watching me for 3 years. But Arya is twisting the narrative, making Evelyn's genuine feelings sound predatory and calculating. She invested in your business, Arya continues. Did you know that Evelyn was your anonymous benefactor? The one who gave you the money to expand Bloom and Vow. She's been pulling strings behind the scenes for months, positioning herself to swoop in and play the hero when the opportunity rose. The information isn't new to me, but hearing it presented as evidence of manipulation rather than generosity makes my stomach turn. Arya is taking Evelyn's acts of support and reframing them as something sinister. Evelyn told me about the investment. I say carefully. She explained that it was a sound business decision. Of course, she did. Arya scoffs. Evelyn always has a logical explanation for everything. But think about it, Maya Reyes. What are the odds that your anonymous investor just happened to be the sister of your fiancé? What are the odds that she was conveniently positioned to propose marriage when I left you at the altar? Arya's words plant seeds of doubt that I don't want to acknowledge. Could Evelyn have orchestrated the entire situation? Did she somehow manipulate Arya into leaving me so she could step in as the rescuer? That's a pretty elaborate conspiracy theory, I say. But my voice lacks conviction. Is it? Arya presses. Evelyn is one of the most strategic people I know. She plans everything down to the smallest detail, always thinking 3 moves ahead. Do you really think she would make an impulsive decision to propose marriage in front of hundreds of people? The question hits too close to home. I've wondered the same thing myself, questioned how the methodical Evelyn Sterling could act so spontaneously, but I'd chalked it up to her genuine feelings and the dramatic circumstances. Even if that were true, I say slowly, it doesn't change the fact that you abandoned me at our wedding. You don't get to come back now and claim you made a mistake. I know I hurt you, Arya admits, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. We had something real. Maya Reyes. Don't let Evelyn's manipulation destroy that. Arya reaches across the table and takes my hand, her touch familiar in a way that brings back memories of our 2 years together. For a moment, I remember why I fell for her in the first place. Her confidence, her charm, the way she made me feel desired and special. Just think about it, Arya says softly. Think about whether you're really happy with Evelyn or if you're just grateful for what she's done for you. There's a difference between love and obligation. The words echo Evelyn's own fears about my motivations, the insecurities she expressed before leaving for Seattle. Arya has identified the exact vulnerability that's been eating at both of us. The question of whether my feelings are genuine or just gratitude in disguise. I pull my hand away from Arya's and stand up abruptly. I need to go. Maya Reyes, wait, Arya calls. But I'm already heading for the door. The drive home is a blur of conflicting emotions and unwanted doubts. Arya's accusations about Evelyn's manipulation feel wrong, but they've awakened questions I'd been trying to ignore. Did Evelyn orchestrate our marriage? Has she been pulling strings behind the scenes to get what she wants? I arrive at the condo to find Evelyn in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine with the mechanical precision that's become her default since returning from Seattle. She looks up when I enter, her expression carefully neutral. How was your day? She asks with polite disinterest. I had coffee with Arya, I reply, watching for any reaction. Evelyn's hand stills on the wine glass for just a moment before she continues pouring. I see. How is she? She wants to get back together, I say bluntly. She thinks our marriage is fake and that you manipulated the situation to get what you've always wanted. Evelyn places the wine bottle down with meticulous care, her expression giving nothing away. And what do you think? I think you've been keeping your distance since you got back from Seattle. I say, I think you're frightened of whatever is happening between us. So you're hiding behind professionalism and pretending that night never occurred. That night was a lapse in judgment, Evelyn says, steady, and firm. I let my feelings overrule my better sense, and it tangled our arrangement unnecessarily. Alas, I echo, heat rising in my chest. Is that truly how you view it? Because it felt very real to me. Evelyn's composure slips a fraction, and I catch a flicker of hurt in her eyes before the walls go back up. It isn't about how it felt. What matters is protecting the boundaries that safeguard us both. Protect us from what? I press. From actually caring about each other. From creating something real instead of a strictly functional agreement. From the inevitable letdown when you realize this isn't what you want. Evelyn snaps. Control finally fraying. From the moment you understand that gratitude isn't love and decide you'd rather be with someone who didn't engineer your rescue. There it is, the core of Evelyn's fear, laid bare. She's convinced my feelings are rooted in obligation rather than genuine desire. That I'm here only because she solved my crisis and underwrote my stability. So Arya was right, I say quietly. You did steer the situation. Evelyn goes pale. For a breath, she looks shattered. Then the ice queen Fawade slides back, more complete than before. I provided professional support for a sound investment and offered a rational solution to an unfortunate circumstance. She answers coolly. If you choose to label that as manipulation, that's your choice. Don't, I warn, don't retreat into legalese when we're discussing us. We don't have us, Evelyn replies with devastating finality. We have an arrangement and it appears it's run its course. The words land like a blow. She's ending this, pushing me away so completely there's no room for appeal or debate. Fine, I say, my voice shaking with anger and hurt. If that's what you want. I turn for the guest room and slam the door. Through the thin walls, I hear her moving in the kitchen, the clink of glass, cabinets opening and shutting. She's probably tidying with the same methodical precision she applies to everything, scrubbing away any trace of our argument. By morning, a stack of legal papers sits on the kitchen counter. Divorce documents on her firm's letterhead, prepared with the same meticulous care as our original contract. She's already signed her signature as exact and controlled as the rest of her life. A note is clipped on top, written in Evelyn's careful hand. I believe it's best for both of us to end this before there's further confusion. The papers are standard and fair. Keep anything you brought into the apartment. I've included a settlement that should more than cover any inconvenience this has caused you. A settlement? She's paying me off like a partner in a failed deal, reducing months together to a ledger entry. The clinical efficiency of it makes my chest ache with something perilously close to heartbreak. I packed that morning, loading the car with clothes and the personal things I'd slowly brought into Evelyn's immaculate condo. The potted orchid goes with me, along with the bright throw pillows and books that made the place feel like home. Without those small, warm touches, the apartment slips back into the impersonal showplace it was at the start. Diego Alvarez takes one look at me when I reach bloom and vow and pulls me into a hug. I don't cry, but the familiarity of his arms nearly cracks my hard-won composure. What happened? He asks softly. Evelyn ended it, I say. She thinks I'm with her out of gratitude. And maybe she's right. Are you? Diego asks, studying my face. Grateful, I mean. The question forces me to scrutinize my motives more honestly than I have in weeks. Am I grateful? She spared me humiliation and back to my business? Absolutely. But is that all I feel? I don't know anymore. I admit. Everything's tangled. The rescue, the investment, the way she makes me feel safe and seen. How do I separate real feeling from obligation? Maybe you don't have to, Diego suggests. Maybe gratitude and love aren't opposites. Maybe she helped you because she cared. And maybe you care because she's worth caring about. His logic tracks. But it doesn't quiet the ache in my chest or answer the larger question of whether we could have built something real. Now I'll never know, because she's decided the risk isn't one she's willing to take. 3 days later, I'm catering the Blackwood wedding, a high-profile event at the Union League Club. It's exactly the kind of prestigious affair that Evelyn's investment made possible for Bloom and Vow to handle. And the irony isn't lost on me. As I arrange white roses and baby's breath in the elegant ballroom, I'm focused on adjusting a centerpiece when I hear a familiar voice behind me. The flowers are beautiful as always. I turn to find Arya standing near the entrance, dressed in an elegant cocktail dress and carrying her professional camera equipment. She's the photographer for this event, which means I'll be working alongside her for the next 6 hours. Thank you, I reply politely, trying to maintain professional distance. I heard about the divorce papers, Arya says quietly. I'm sorry things didn't work out with Evelyn, but maybe it's for the best. How did you hear about the divorce? I ask sharply. Arya looks slightly uncomfortable. Evelyn's law firm handles some contracts for the photography studio I work with. Word gets around in professional circles. The explanation feels thin, but I don't have the energy to interrogate Arya's sources. The divorce isn't exactly a secret, and Evelyn probably filed the papers through her firm's family law department. It doesn't matter, I say, turning back to the flowers. What's done is done. Actually, I think it does matter, Arya says, moving closer. I think you deserve to know the truth about Evelyn's motivations before I can ask what she means. Arya pulls out her phone and scrolls through what appears to be a series of text messages. These are from Evelyn, Arya explains. From about 6 months ago when you were struggling with the business expansion. She shows me the screen and my heart sinks as I read Evelyn's words. Arya Maya Reyes' business is suffering because she's too proud to ask for help. She needs capital to expand, but she won't accept a loan from you or anyone connected to your family. I'm going to provide funding through an anonymous investment firm. The next message is even more damning. She deserves better than the way you treat her. Someone should be supporting her dreams instead of holding her back. My hands shake as I read Evelyn's private thoughts about my relationship with Arya. Thoughts that confirm she'd been watching and judging our dynamic for months before intervening. There's more, Arya says, scrolling to another conversation from right before our wedding. Evelyn's words are brief but devastating. If you're not ready to marry her, Arya, you need to say something before you destroy her publicly. Maya Reyes deserves honesty, not humiliation. She knew, I whisper, staring at the phone screen. Evelyn knew you were going to leave me at the altar. She encouraged it, Arya corrects. Evelyn convinced me that I wasn't ready for marriage, that I'd be doing you a favor by backing out. She manipulated both of us, Maya Reyes. She broke us up so she could swoop in and play the hero. The ballroom around me seems to spin as the implications sink in. Evelyn didn't just support my business and propose marriage out of spontaneous generosity. She actively worked to end my relationship with Arya, positioning herself to take advantage of the situation she helped create. I need some air, I mumble, stumbling toward the balcony. Arya follows me outside, her expression sympathetic. I know it's a lot to process. I've been carrying this around for weeks, wondering if I should tell you. The cool evening air does nothing to clear the fog in my head. Evelyn's confession about watching me for 3 years takes on a more sinister tone. When viewed through the lens of Arya's evidence, how much of our relationship was genuine, and how much was the result of Evelyn's careful manipulation? Why didn't you show me this before? I ask. Because I hoped you'd figure it out on your own, Arya admits. And because I wasn't sure how you'd react. But seeing you hurt and confused after the divorce, I couldn't keep quiet anymore. Arya moves closer, her voice soft and persuasive. Maya Reyes, what we had was real. It may not have been perfect, but it was honest. Evelyn's feelings for you are based on obsession and control, not love. You deserve better than that. Her words chip away at the foundation of everything I thought I knew about Evelyn. The woman I'd been falling for, the vulnerable person who confessed her fears about my motivations. Was she just an elaborate performance designed to win my trust? Come back to me, Arya continues, reaching for my hand. Let me show you what real love looks like. Let me prove that I've changed, that I'm ready to prioritize us this time. I stare down at our joined hands, remembering the familiarity of Arya's touch and the comfort of our shared history. With Evelyn's manipulation exposed, maybe going back to Arya is the smart choice. Maybe it's time to stop trying to build something new and return to something I understand. But even as I consider Arya's offer, something deep in my chest rebels against the idea. Evelyn may have manipulated our circumstances, but the woman I glimpsed behind her walls, the person who made me coffee every morning and laughed at my stories, felt real in ways that Arya never did. I need time to think, I tell Arya, pulling my hand away. This is all too much to process right now. Arya nods understandingly. Of course. But my Arias, don't let Evelyn's deception keep you from happiness. You deserve someone who loves you for who you are, not someone who sees you as a prize to be won. As Arya returns to her photography duties, I remain on the balcony, staring out at the city lights and trying to make sense of the wreckage of my marriage. Evelyn's manipulation cuts deep, but so does the memory of her vulnerability when she confessed her feelings. Which version of Evelyn is real? The calculating strategist who orchestrated my rescue, or the woman who was terrified that my feelings were based on gratitude rather than love? Maybe the truth is that both versions exist, and I'll never be able to separate Evelyn's genuine emotions from her need to control the situation. Maybe some relationships are too complicated to untangle, too built on shifting ground to ever feel truly secure. All I know for certain is that my marriage is over. My business is thriving thanks to Evelyn's investment, and I'm more confused about love than I've ever been in my life. The flowers I've arranged for the Blackwood wedding are perfect, creating an atmosphere of romance and possibility for a couple who believes in forever. As I watch them exchange vows later that evening, I can't help but wonder if true love really exists, or if we're all just making the best of imperfect circumstances and calling it destiny. 2 weeks after the Blackwood wedding, I'm still living above bloom and vow, surrounded by the familiar chaos of my Prevalent life. The divorce papers remain unsigned on my kitchen table, a daily reminder of how spectacularly my marriage imploded. Every morning, I tell myself I'll sign them and move on, but something stops me each time I pick up the pen. Diego Alvarez has been patient with my mood swings and distracted work, but I can see his concern growing as I throw myself into arrangements with manic intensity. Today, we're preparing for 3 weekend weddings, and I've been obsessively perfecting centerpieces that were already flawless hours ago. You're going to wear out those roses if you keep adjusting them, Diego Alvarez observes, gently taking the flowers from my hands. What's really going on, my Arias? I sink onto the workbench stool, suddenly exhausted. Yesterday I uncovered something hidden among my old design sketches. Diego Alvarez arches an eyebrow as I pull a folder I found while sorting my portfolio. Inside are meticulous notes about my floral preferences, business aims, and even daily habits, all in Evelyn's unmistakably neat handwriting. The pages bear dates going back nearly 2 years, forming a record of Evelyn's quiet attention that feels both moving and disconcerting. She was studying me, I say, showing Diego the pages, learning everything about my work, my hopes, even my favorite coffee order. It's as if she was preparing for the moment she could step into my life. Diego reads through the pages slowly, his expression reflective rather than alarmed. Or maybe she was paying attention because she cared. These look like the notes of someone genuinely invested in your happiness. How do you tell the difference between sincere interest and manipulation? I ask, anxious. How do I know if Evelyn's feelings were real, or if I was just a project she wanted to complete? Have you tried asking her? Diego suggests softly. She won't speak to me. She's avoided me completely since the divorce papers. Her assistant told me she's taken a massive case and is working around the clock. Diego sets the notes down and takes my hands in his. My Arias, I've watched you with Evelyn at firm events and family dinners. Whatever her initial reasons might have been, the way she looked at you was real. She wasn't performing for anyone when she thought no one was watching. His words offer a small comfort, but they don't quiet the doubt that's been gnawing at me since Arya's revelations. I want to believe Evelyn's feelings were honest, but how can I trust my judgment when I've been so wrong about love? Before, my phone buzzes with a text from Leah Winters, my college roommate and one of the few people who knows the full story of my marriage fiasco. She's checked on me regularly since Evelyn and I split, offering everything from wine nights to weekend trips to pull me from my heartbreak. Dinner tonight. The text reads, I have news that might lift you up. I agree to meet her at our usual spot, a snug Italian place where we've solved countless crises over pasta and wine. Leah is already waiting when I arrive, her face alight with excitement that instantly makes me wary. You look like you're about to explode with gossip, I say, sliding into the booth across from her. Better than gossip. Leah grins. I've got insider information about your ice queen. My stomach tightens at the mention of Evelyn. What kind of info? My cousin works at Evelyn's firm, Leah explains. She says Evelyn has been a wreck since you separated, working 18-hour days, snapping at colleagues, basically functioning like a machine. Yesterday, she actually broke down crying during a partners meeting. The image of composed, controlled Evelyn crying at work seems impossible. Evelyn doesn't break. She never shows weakness, especially not in settings where her reputation means everything. Are you sure your cousin has the right person? I ask. Positive? She says Evelyn Sterling finally showed human emotion, and it stunned everyone who saw it. Apparently, she was presenting a case summary and just started sobbing when she mentioned something about contracts and mutual benefit. The phrase mutual benefit sends a jolt through my chest. Those were Evelyn's words when she proposed describing our marriage as a practical arrangement that would meet both our needs. Hearing them during her breakdown suggests our separation is wounding her more than her composed exterior reveals. There's more, Leah continues. My cousin says Evelyn's been asking HR about extended leave and exploring a transfer to the firm's London office. She's planning to leave Chicago. Maya. The news hits like a physical blow. Evelyn is running, ready to put an ocean between us rather than face whatever feelings our failed marriage stirred up. The woman who stares down opposing counsel in multi-million-dollar negotiations is so afraid of what she feels for me that she's willing to relocate to another continent. When I manage to ask, the transfer could happen as soon as next month if she pushes it through. She's already begun handing her major cases to other partners. I spend the rest of dinner trying to listen to Leah's small talk, but my mind keeps circling back to Evelyn's collapse and her planned escape. Whatever manipulation there may have been in the beginning, her behavior now suggests someone genuinely shattered by our separation. That night I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the small moments that felt true between Evelyn and me. How she learned my coffee order without being told. The gentle way she touched my face when she confessed what she felt. The tremor in her voice when she admitted she feared. My feelings were only gratitude. Those moments weren't calculated or strategic. They were the gestures of someone who cared deeply and feared losing something precious. Evelyn may have engineered our starting point, but her emotions were real. By morning, I've made a decision that frightens and energizes me in equal measure. I'm going to fight for Evelyn, for us, for the possibility that two imperfect people can build something real together, despite the complicated way we began. Because if fear can masquerade as prudence, love can masquerade as obligation. Only action clarifies it. If I do nothing, the story ends here, written by caution. If I move, I accept uncertainty, risk, and hope. I choose movement, conversation, and truth. however messy they might be right now. I spend the day planning the most important floral arrangement of my career, not for a client or a wedding, but for the woman I married in the strangest circumstances and fell in love with. Despite all my attempts at self-protection, working with Diego Alvarez and our part-time assistant, I create an elaborate garden installation that tells the story of Evelyn and me through flowers. White roses represent our wedding day. Sunflowers symbolize our first real conversation during the storm, and orchids honor the night she confessed her feelings. Each arrangement is carefully positioned to create a narrative arc, leading from the practical beginning of our relationship to the emotional honesty we finally achieved. The installation takes up the entire sidewalk in front of Evelyn's law firm, a bold declaration that's impossible to ignore. Hidden among the flowers are notes written on waterproof paper, each one addressing a different aspect of our relationship. For your investment in my business. Thank you for believing in my dreams when I was too afraid to pursue them myself. For the marriage proposal. Thank you for saving me from humiliation and giving me dignity when I needed it most. For 3 years of watching from afar. Thank you for seeing my worth even when I couldn't see it myself. For your honest confession. Thank you for being brave enough to risk everything by telling me the truth. And finally, at the center of the installation, a single note attached to a perfect white rose for being yourself. Thank you for showing me that love isn't about perfect timing or pure motives. It's about choosing each other despite our flaws and building something beautiful together. I finished the installation just as the sun sets, the flowers glowing under the street lights like something from a fairy tale. Then I wait, sitting on a nearby bench with my heart pounding and my hands shaking from nerves and caffeine. Evelyn emerges from the building at nearly midnight, looking exhausted and defeated. She's lost weight since our separation, and her usually perfect appearance shows signs of stress and sleepless nights. She stops abruptly when she sees the flower garden, her briefcase falling from her suddenly limp fingers. For a long moment, she just stares at the installation, reading the notes and taking in the symbolic meaning of each arrangement. I can see tears on her cheeks, even from a distance. The first genuine emotion I've witnessed from her since she returned from Seattle. When she reaches the center note attached to the white rose, Evelyn's composure finally breaks completely. She sinks onto the sidewalk among the flowers, clutching the note to her chest and sobbing with the raw intensity of someone who's been holding back too much for too long. I approach slowly, giving her time to notice my presence and decide whether she wants to talk. When Evelyn looks up and sees me, her tear-stained face shows a mixture of hope and devastation that breaks my heart. "You made this for me," she whispers, her voice from crying. "I made it for us," I correct, settling onto the sidewalk beside her. "I wanted to tell our story the only way I know how." Evelyn clutches the note tighter, her hands trembling. "My Arias, I'm so sorry. I ruined everything by trying to control the situation instead of trusting what we had. We both made mistakes," I reply. "I let Arya's accusations poison my judgment instead of talking to you directly. I should have asked for your side of the story. What Arya showed you was true," Evelyn admits. "I did encourage her to be honest about her doubts. I did invest in your business because I wanted to support your success. I did manipulate circumstances to position myself as your rescuer. The honesty should sting, but instead it feels like relief." Evelyn isn't trying to defend her actions or minimize their impact. She's owning her mistakes completely. But that doesn't mean my feelings weren't real. Evelyn continues, "Yes, I orchestrated opportunities to be close to you, but I fell in love with who you are, not some idealized version I created in my mind. Your kindness, your creativity, your strength in building something beautiful from nothing. Those aren't things I imagined or manipulated. I know," I say softly. "I figured that out eventually. The way you looked at me, the way you took care of me, that wasn't an act. You can't fake that kind of tenderness." Evelyn's eyes widen with something that looks like hope. "Does that mean you can forgive me? Can you trust me again despite how we started? Instead of answering with words, I lean forward and kiss her gently. Evelyn responds immediately, her lips soft and desperate against mine. When we break apart, we're both crying, but for the first time in weeks, they're tears of relief rather than heartbreak. I never signed the divorce papers, I confess. I couldn't bring myself to end something that felt so real, even if it started as a business arrangement. Evelyn laughs through her tears, the sound bright and genuine. I was hoping you'd leave them unsigned. I've been checking the court records obsessively, terrified that you'd file them while I was too cowardly to fight for us. Leah Winter's cousin told me you're planning to transfer to London, I mention. Evelyn's face flushes with embarrassment. I was running away because I thought I'd lost you forever. I couldn't bear the idea of staying in Chicago and watching you rebuild your life without me. What if I don't want to rebuild without you? I ask. What if I want to figure out how to make this work despite all the complications and imperfect beginnings? Evelyn studies my face carefully, searching for any hint of doubt or obligation. Whatever she sees, there must satisfy her because her expression softens into the vulnerable openness I remember from the night she confessed her feelings. I want that too, she admits, more than I've ever wanted anything. But my Arayas, I need you to be sure, not grateful, not obligated, but genuinely sure that this is what you want. I'm sure, I reply without hesitation. I want the woman who leaves me coffee notes and learns my favorite flowers. I want the person who's brave enough to propose marriage to save someone from humiliation. I want the Evelyn who's messy and vulnerable and human behind all that professional competence. Evelyn kisses me again, deeper this time, her hands tangling in my hair as if she's afraid I might disappear. When we finally separate, we're both breathless and covered in flower petals from sitting in the middle of my installation. So, what happens now? Evelyn asks. Now, we go home, I say, standing and offering her my hand. We throw away those divorce papers and figure out how to be married for real, instead of just for show. Evelyn takes my hand and lets me pull her to her feet. I'd like that very much. But my Arayas, I want to do this, right? I want to court you properly, take you on actual dates, give you the romance you deserve instead of just a business arrangement. Evelyn Sterling wants to court me, I tease. I never thought I'd see the day when the Ice Queen wanted to be romantic. The Ice Queen is retiring. Evelyn replies with a smile that transforms her entire face. I'm ready to try being just Evelyn if you'll have me. We walk hand in hand back to Evelyn's condo, leaving the flower installation for the building maintenance crew to discover in the morning. Tomorrow, Evelyn will probably have to explain to her colleagues why there's a garden love letter on the firm's sidewalk. But tonight, none of that matters. What matters is Evelyn brewing coffee for both of us. Not because it's practical, but because she wants to take care of me. What matters is falling asleep in her arms, knowing that we chose each other freely, with full knowledge of our respective flaws and complicated histories. 6 months later, Evelyn surprises me with a greenhouse attached to our new house. A Victorian we bought together in a neighborhood full of gardens and possibility. The greenhouse is filled with every type of flower imaginable, a space where I can grow my own arrangements year-round and experiment with new varieties. I used to think love was about grand gestures and perfect moments. I tell Evelyn as we stand together in the greenhouse surrounded by blooming life and endless potential. Now I know it's about someone who helps you bloom and who blooms alongside you. Evelyn smiles and kisses me among the flowers. And I know that whatever started as a business arrangement has grown into something real and lasting and beautiful. Sometimes the best love stories begin with the most unlikely circumstances. And sometimes the people who save us are the ones who need saving themselves. We're both different people than we were on that chaotic wedding day when Evelyn stepped forward and offered me a lifeline. But we're different together. Better versions of ourselves who have learned that love isn't about perfect timing or pure Motives. It's about choosing each other every day and building something beautiful from whatever messy, complicated materials life provides.